G'day everyone, this is Rangadad. Not financial advice, just the way I'm looking at the market. Apologies for the absence the last couple of days, just been busy. It's always busy when I'm traveling, trying to get other stuff done, writing reports and shit at the same time. So, um, yeah, it's kind of been slowly doing what I thought it should have done a little bit quicker. Um, Turns out this was another sort of fake out. Um, didn't happen on sort of decent volume, these two candles, so it was always going to be iffy as to whether they were a true move or not. And just not closing above this wick here meant it was just recovering smaller time frame vector candles. Interesting that we do still have top of this wick, and we've got a pretty decent vector candle here. So in terms of pullbacks, I think it is temporary. I think we will come back to this at least, but I think next time we come back to that, potentially it's going to be another leg up in the bull run. We are at risk of coming further down here. If we look at stochastic momentum, there is a bit of a trend line coming through here. So somewhere in this sort of region here, I'd kind of expect momentum to bounce. It would be an interesting spot if it did, because I still think there's potential for it to come back into this 50 EMA here, or at least, at the very least, I would expect it to come down to the bottom of this value area low, which is sitting at around 92k. That would pick up basically all of this vector candle in here. So it's kind of a reasonable target, I think. But definitely it to be bullish again, we're going to have to recover this point of control, the high volume area, and basically another close above that value area high on a decent trading day, not on a weekend preferably, but on a decent trading day that would be pretty bullish. But for the time being, looks like a reset is in order. BBWP's reset. There's a couple of interesting things here. So this will just be a relatively quick update. Global liquidity is dropping, and it's continuing to drop, and it dropped pretty hard overnight. So that's going to, I think, until this pops up, that's probably going to drag the market down further. So if we see this sort of recover, then you'd kind of expect the market to recover. It's potentially one of our signs. Want a little basing pattern, something like this, preferably. Nothing too violent. Otherwise, if there's something that happens really violently, then there's probably some bigger underlying issues, and we may not go to where people think. But yeah, it does look like it should be basing off relatively soon. So quick one on the Qs and NASDAQ. So it's been finally rolling over. We got the momentum cross. We're not out of bullish control zone yet, so there could be more to run on this, which is a little concerning coming into CPI read tonight, I think, my time, from memory. So looking at this, obviously we are in the bullish control zone, so it could flip back to bullish and go on another run. But at this stage, it's kind of geared towards the downside. It's still looking like a soft correction, like BBWP is coming back. It doesn't look like it's going to be anything too drastic. Sort of 50 EMA there is kind of my target. Equal weight is still pulling back. This was sort of the thing that was giving us, mainly with the S&P 500, the idea that things weren't up and to the right like the regular index was suggesting. It has crossed, or looks like it's crossing into the, or out of the bullish control zone. And BBWP is resetting, so probably again another couple of days down on this to before we find a low. SPY, it's still stuck in this channel. So yeah, I think somewhere in this green box, probably move that down a little bit, is where we should bounce. If we break below this bottom trend, then that's potentially suggesting some bigger issues. The advanced decline line, that's actually more down than what we've had in a little while. To be honest, it kind of looks even worse than this here. But it actually looks like something more like that. So what happened in April? Let's have a quick look. Just put a vertical line. Do that again here. It's kind of similar. Yeah, funnily enough, we had a bit of a flush there. We had a big red day after it there as well. So I think CPI is probably not going to be a great read for the market, just based on what the advanced decline line's doing and where we're sort of situated with momentum at the moment. So there you go, there's a future prediction. Could be wrong, not financial advice, all that sort of stuff. So interestingly, the equal weight is getting close to the bottom of this channel. So equal weight, you might find, doesn't drop as far, or may try and recover quickly. Still a little bit to go on momentum though. BBWP could reset a little bit more, so it'll be interesting. What we don't really want to see, it would be not great for markets for this to come down outside of that channel, come back up and retest it, and then like sort of sit on the underside of this channel or just drop away. You kind of want recovery of this channel as quickly as possible if it breaks it. IWM's still dropping. Geez, this has just been a slow grind down, which, to be honest with you, I think is kind of bullish. Just waiting for it to turn around, but momentum's still got a way to go. XLI. See, a lot of these are getting close to a bouncing point as well. XLY, XLP's only just started pulling back, but the equal weight has obviously been a bit of a laggard compared to the regular XLY, XLP pair. So this is, the fact that this is still so high is actually a little concerning. If this wants to drop a lot harder, then you would expect a bigger correction on the market. So bigger corrections are something that we need to have in the back of our mind at the moment. KRE still sort of pulling back. Momentum is in the bearish control zone now. It's good that BBWP is so low. This is suggesting that when we do find a bottom, if it bounces in a confident sort of way, then and BBWP jumps up, then it could actually go on a decent run, which would suggest a healthy market. ITB, still struggling, isn't it? So that's home construction. Might find a bit of support soon, but could come down, recover this vector candle here and bounce off the 200 EMA. So still suggesting, most of these things suggesting another couple of days of down. Semiconductors ETF is struggling. This probably doesn't bode well for the market in general, but you just got to hope that this is an accumulation rather than a distribution area. And I think it is more accumulation than anything. We'll see if this one plays out. Hopefully not, but it's one we're looking out for at the moment. It's tracking. If that plays out, then general economy will probably be at the brink of the next decent pullback. DJT, DJI both pulling back. VIX is starting to have a little uptick, which you would expect. Skew's crushing. So that's, again, that yesterday was something to suggest that we were coming down. So that was actually, the first crush was on Friday. So I pointed that out over the weekend. DAX is pulling back. Interesting rejection of that trend line there. Needs to retest this upper trend line here, or the next one below it. See what happens after that. It could actually bounce and go on a decent run. Chinese market opened high, closed low. I think this is still generally bullish. It's just wiping out some high leverage. Apparently the 3x leverage HSI fund in the US is it's in like the top 5 most traded indexes at the moment. People are just aping into this, which isn't great. When everyone's doing that, chances are this may reject and pull back a little bit. Japanese yen, UK 100s pulling back. Again, not being able to break these highs is a little concerning. It's kind of, this needs to resolve itself. If this resolves itself to the upside, then happy days. We've probably got 6 more months. It's like freaking Groundhog Day. Does the groundhog see its shadow? If it falls and closes sort of below 8,000, it could actually, again, be another bellwether for the economy and suggest we are not in a good way and potentially coming down. Same with Japanese market. TLT pulling back a little. I don't know that this will last too long on the pullback, although momentum is suggesting it will come back down quite a bit. Could just be a false start on this, the move to the upside again. If there is underlying issues in the economy, then you would expect TLT to go a bit better. HYG, yeah, it's actually interestingly holding that level stronger than I thought it would. So bonds are actually suggesting that this is not a major pullback. Yeah, everything's holding its line at the moment. Yield curve's still uninverted. Yields are starting to tick up a little bit. I don't expect that to last too long, but again, I'm not expecting a huge drop either, unless there's some black swan that's lurking, and then these should drop pretty hard. But at the moment, it would make sense for them to bounce off this, and in which case your TLT could actually come back a little more. Copper's still struggling. It needs to get through these moving averages basically, but decent move out. We've closed above a couple of key wicks here. I do expect it to keep going. It's just having an off day while it's waiting, as is everything else seemingly for the CPI read. Gold's pushing higher. It didn't come back as far as we'd hoped. It may still bounce back down a little bit, especially if interest rates are going to go up a little. Typically, gold doesn't like high interest rates. We've pretty well recovered this vector candle. Might come up a little bit higher, but there's a lot of targets above for gold. Like recovery of these vector candles in here wouldn't surprise me. I guess it's kind of a mix of whether the interest rates are going to override gold and pull it back, or whether stocks are going to go down and gold's going to go up because people are going to safety. Honestly, there's not a lot of edge for me there. Silver, interesting. Kind of want to recover this trend line here, which I think it could do, but maybe just a little pullback into this vector first before it heads up. US oil still struggling, still in the wedge. Nothing to see here. We just need to see that resolve in a particular direction. Dixie's still strong, which means my Aussie dollars are worth piss all. But we have basically fully recovered this vector wick in here. Kind of, if we get a move to the upside in the Aussie dollar, then that would actually be pretty big bullish divergence, and I would expect it to go on a pretty decent run. BBWP is increasing too, which is interesting. Interest rates are staying on hold. Consumer confidence is down on what was expected. These are too close together. Inflation rate, yeah, so they're expecting a little bump. What you don't want to see is more than 2.7, I think, there. And core, if we get a bump on 3.3, that'll be interesting. Don't really want to see that. Japanese yen is pulling back. Yeah, next week's going to be very interesting with the Japanese central bank rate decision and the US rate decision, basically same day, I think. Aussie euro, yeah, nothing there. This is interesting. So we actually got a jump in percentage of stocks above the 50-day moving average yesterday. Didn't really expect that, but it'd be interesting to see where it's at today. I suspect this has resumed its downward trend. Again, we don't really want to break the bottom of this trend before the market moves up again. Mag 7 is definitely still the favorite at the moment. They're going pretty well, although mostly seems to be driven by a handful of them at a time. Tesla's looking to break through this previous high. Yeah, we'll see if it can do that, but it's probably due for a pullback too, to be honest. Nvidia has not recovered this trend line. Nvidia looks like it wants to pull back quite a bit more, which is going to be interesting for the overall market. Could suggest a little bit more of a pullback. Google had a massive bounce. I don't know what happened there. Must have had some news or something. Where's the reason is a puzzle. Yeah, right. It could be due to that Willow coming out. Yeah. Yeah. Seems like it's due to Willow. That's interesting though that it's broken above these highs. It struggled to get above that for ages. So this could actually go on a bit of a run. What you don't want to see is another gap to the downside, because that could lead to just going down like a waterfall. Island reversal at this point would not be good for Google. I didn't think Willow was that super impressive, but anyway. ARK, interesting. We hit that resistance and pulled back. Again, we were coming into resistances on a lot of different things. Interesting. Apple looks like it wants to break above that other trend line there. So Apple's actually looking strong for some reason. Amazon bouncing off this trend line. Probably looking for a pullback on that. So it looks like, yeah, individual stocks are kind of the go at the moment. AMD's pulling back pretty hard as well. That's interesting. Could actually break that low. If it does, that would not look great for AMD. Airbnb still struggling, boring. SMCI pulling back from a few key moving averages. Stellantis is still trying to not look shit, but it still looks shit. It's interesting that the automakers are sort of finding a base as everything else is starting to pull back. Aussie 200 pulling back. No real surprise there. So total crypto market cap has taken a hit. Oh, excuse me. And this is actually getting close to where we could potentially bounce from and just surprise a few people. Sorry. So we haven't really broken out of this range with the stable coins versus Bitcoin. If we sort of break above that vector candle there, then okay, maybe things are going to go down a bit further, but we're getting at a point now where if Bitcoin bounces, it could be quite interesting. The other interesting thing is the ETH BTC longs seems to have found a base. It seems like everyone's finally closed all these positions that were not in profit. That's really weird. Still confuses me, but interesting that BTC USD longs is actually pulling back a little bit still. I would expect them to start actually accumulating here. So that's kind of suggesting there might be a little bit more pullback to come. ETH BTC pulling back a little. No real surprise there, but ETH dominance struggling. Bitcoin dominance. It's interesting that it's hitting a bit of resistance there too. Okay, so Ethereum's pulling back. Ethereum needs to find some support around here. It's recovered basically this vector candle here, which is good. We haven't actually closed yet within the value area. It's looking close at the moment, but yeah, this doesn't look great, but at the same time, it looks like it wants to actually use this as its base for the next run. So we go back to Bitcoin. Yeah, I still think Bitcoin's probably got a little bit further to come into this vector, but these wicks to the downside, if it closes like this today or even higher today, then that would actually be looking fairly bullish, I would think. Most of the others are taking a big hit. Sol, I actually had a target on Sol of about 212, and it came a fair bit lower than that. That 202 level is interesting. I had that as a previous resistance level. So Sol looks like it might have found a base here. The pullbacks on a lot of these altcoins wiped out a hell of a lot of liquidity. Most of them may have a little bit more to come over the next few days. Nero's big pullback. Mudang. If we get another pump in the market, though, these things will recover pretty quickly. Pepe. Just going to go to the shorter time frame. So the hourly on Bitcoin is actually, that looks, it's still kind of bearish. Yeah, it's looking bearish on the hourly based on traders reality stuff. We could get back up to the daily open, recover most of this vector here. So up to 97.5, but I would expect it to find a fair bit of resistance up around that level. Interesting, we don't have vectors coming back up though, which is kind of good for the bulls. On the 15-minute chart, yeah, it's still looking reasonably bearish. We're about to sort of potentially going to turn again soon on this to the downside. If we break above and keep going on the cyclic RSI, that could be a catalyst for a switch in this to more bullish. But realistically, you want to be breaking the 50 EMA on the 1 hour, 200 EMA on the 15-minute before you get too excited about another bull run. But the fact we haven't left any 15, sorry, that's on the 1 hour as well. Let's have a look at the 15. So we still haven't left a lot of vector candles in here. In fact, I don't know that we've left any. Don't worry about these trades. It's still work in progress, which I haven't had a chance to do anything on lately. Yeah, no vector candles in here is interesting. It actually looks like it wants to flip bullish at the moment on the 15 minutes. So that's a decent sign that we may have found a base in here. And based on all the buying that was happening off that level, wouldn't really surprise me. Just over to CoinAnk, and there has been a lot of orders hit in this area. It does concern me that like all these orders are still in here, down to that 88, 89, which is just the bottom of the value area, really. It seems like it would make sense for it to come into that, but it just depends how much buying is going on in this region here, which if we look at IBIT, you can see these are probably sells. Maybe that might have been a buy, but that's, I think, a buy. And when the big guys are buying at these sort of levels and they're not buying down here, suggest maybe one more sort of pullback, but you kind of want to see a little bit more accumulation happening at these sort of levels down here. So it's kind of on Coinbase though, seems to be getting some buys around the bottoms here. So that's the 2x long Coinbase ETF. This one here, same sort of deal. You're right at the lows here, so want to find a base pretty soon. I think this is suggesting that people are buying in. They're not selling at these levels. Not ninth largest trade ever on Coinbase. So this is suggesting we could find a base relatively soon. One thing I wanted to point out, this is Sentiment Trader. So smart money is still really low in the market. Dumb money is still quite high. This has not reset for quite a while. And yeah, I think this is a little bit of a concern, because generally smart money doesn't start to accumulate um, until we actually start to pull back reasonably hard. Obviously, they do accumulate on the way up if there's a good sort of sign that there's a bull market going on as well. But they can be pretty good at predicting bottoms and things like that. So, and we're nowhere near that at the moment. It's just whether they give in and say, well, fuck it, looks like the market's going up, let's just keep buying in. But it just never really seems to happen that way. So yeah, that's my only concern, that we may have a bigger pullback at the moment than what people think. But at this stage, it's looking okay. Little bit of red coming in here on the bid-ask delta. You don't really want to buy into this area. You want to wait till it drops and wait till these are going green. So dropping again potentially. That's about all I'm getting from that. There's the open interest is slowly dropping as well. So cumulative volume delta hasn't really changed too much. Spot CVD is still to the downside, so suggesting there's still more downside to come. We have found some decent bottoming signals on CoinAnk as well. But yeah, obviously we still could go a little bit lower. Liquidation levels, fair bit of liquidations coming in here. Just after this bottom, I think they will probably be taken. This was obviously a liquidation run up here. Looks like they may have grabbed everything they want at the moment, but there's a pretty good target there as well, up around 97,400, I think was the 200 EMA or something on the 15 minute. There was some sort of confluence there, I remember anyway. So that's kind of what I'm looking at the moment. It looks like a little bit more downside to come, probably more so on alts than Bitcoin, but you know, it still looks like Bitcoin will probably find a base somewhere around 90k. Even 92 is a potential base for Bitcoin. All right.